Welcome or welcome back to my channel. If you are new around here, my name is Anne and I am from the suburbs. I now live in the country and I have no idea what I'm doing out here. So in today's video, I actually need to save some marigold seeds. Our hard frost has come and the marigold plants definitely need to be pulled out of the ground, and I can save the seeds from them to plant next spring around the garden and in the front flower bed, and maybe send some to you all, because as far as I know, I'm gonna have a ton of marigold seeds. So I'm gonna get those taken care of. I have some wild onions I need to pull out of the flower bed in the front as well. I need to trim back the hostas, and I also need to do some green onion trimming on green onions that I have on the porch. I also think I have mint out there too that I need to trim and bring inside and use up. So it's kind of like a plant day. Let's do some plant stuff. So I've got my kitchen shears out here on the porch. Look at this dill. My dill has gotten a little floppy. It's like some bugs or something got to it, and down here as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut this completely out. I think we're done here. Basil's done there too. This mint plant's looking pretty good. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut some of this and bring it inside and freeze it. That one's not looking great. So I'm gonna go ahead and just cut it back completely. I think it's just not getting enough of the sun in the morning, maybe. I don't know, it gets really cold out here. So that might just be done for the season until next year. Probably it'll regrow, I would imagine, because it's mint. And then these just keep regrowing. So my green onions, I'm gonna go ahead and just trim all them and put them in the freezer. Keep these pots here with the little nubbin here at the bottom, and they'll just keep regrowing. So I'm gonna go ahead and do some trimmage. How I go about cutting the mint plants, I really don't have any semblance of order. I try to trim above where there's like two leaves that come out, but you know, honestly, the mint's gonna regrow, so I'm just giving it a haircut. And then the same thing for the green onions. I'm just trimming off, I'm just gonna cut them all down to the base, leaving just a little bit of a nubbin at the very bottom so that they'll just continue to regrow. And they do a really good job out here on the porch. I think they like the cooler weather, maybe, I don't know. But since I've had them inside versus having them outside in the summer, they've just done such a better job of regrowing regardless of where I cut them. They're kind of foolproof. I've got my green onions. So I've got a parchment lined baking pan, just a small one right here. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna trim off the ends that are a little bit browned or yellowed. And then I'm just going to cut them into little rounds. I'm not even really gonna measure, but just enough so that they look like, you know, your traditional cut green onions. And I'm just going to cut them into a single layer here and pop them in the freezer for, you know, honestly, I would say about an hour or two. Once they're mostly frozen, then I will transfer them to a more permanent place to live in the freezer, and then I can just pull these out whenever it is that I want to have green onions added to soup or veggie dishes or on top of chicken or whatever. This mint I actually had gotten from Aldi, and what I did is I rooted it. So I took the bottom leaves off of the stem, put it in some water, put it in the windowsill, and I would say in about a week, maybe 2 weeks, I had roots coming off, and I just planted this in those pots out there, and I have all this mint now, which is pretty crazy. So what I'm gonna do is I am going to rinse this mint off, pull the leaves off, and then stick it in an ice cube tray. And I'll pour some filtered water over top of that and put it in the freezer, and that will help me to preserve the mint that I have. So heading outside, here are my marigold plants. And what I had were 6 of them all along my front walkway. And I wanted to move the location for next year, so I am pulling them completely out of the ground. But I know some people like to just cut them off at the base, or maybe even leave them as is, and maybe they'll just reseed themselves and all of that for the next season. But I wanted to move these, so I'm pulling them out. I had already cut off about half of these spent flower blooms, and they've been inside drying because I wanted to save the seeds, and it's pretty fascinating. So these started with their 6 plants, so 6 seeds, and I now, well, let's go inside. I'll show you. So all of these blooms I've had drying. Look how many seeds those are. Those black and white things are the marigold seeds. So in each bloom, there's probably, oh gosh, I don't know, 20, 50, I don't know, a lot of seeds in each one. So all I do is I just take the base of the bloom, pull it apart gently, and out fall the seeds. And so I'm just gonna let them dry on a paper plate for another week, just to make sure they're completely dry. And then I'm going to pass them on to friends and family. I'm gonna save them for myself, just put them in an envelope or a mason jar, label it so I know what they are for next year. But it's unbelievable to me how many seeds literally come from the original 6 seeds that I started from. It's thousands. I don't know. It's a lot. So I'm going to continue. If this works, this is kind of an experiment for me. If this works, I'm doing it again for all the rest of time, because it's just like that started off as 6 seeds and now there's hundreds or thousands. So all right, let's head back outside. I've got some wild onions that grow, or wild chives. I don't exactly know what they are, but they look like green onions that grow in the front flower bed as well. And you can't just like cut them, because they'll just regrow, just like green onions do, right? So I have to take my spade and I dig them out from the base, and I'll show you what they look like. They actually look like the green onions that I had growing on my porch, just smaller. So maybe they're wild chives, I don't know. But to get them completely out, you got to get the root ball that's at the bottom, or else they're just going to keep regrowing and regrowing. And honestly, even as I pull them out like this or dig them out, they still continue to regrow. So I've had a hard time tackling these. It's just pretty, I don't know how they got there. They've been here since we've lived here for the last year. I don't know. So I go around and dig all those out. And then there's also a bunch of hostas randomly in this little corner that I don't know what the corner is for, but I have to dig those out or trim the leaves off as well for right now. And then I'm going to dig them and separate them in the spring. But if you cut the leaves off, that'll prevent any little creepy crawlies living underneath those leaves that could potentially disease the plants. So I'm going to have to divide those out come next spring. But I realize there's something living under a garage, so I'm glad that I cut those out. And just gonna clean up my space here. And I think that's enough plantage for the day. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. If you haven't already and you'd like to, hit that button down below, subscribe so you never miss a new video. Happy seed saving. See you in the next one. Ciao.